Welcome, guys. If you've not been to or not seen the webinar before, my name is Mike. We've got Dan Lawrence with us as well from the Physio channel, and we've been doing this all the way through lockdown. Been having a chat on a Monday night. Started off with talking about tendons, which is one of the areas that Dan is really passionate about and has written a book and a course about. So that was a really good couple of weeks. And then we've kind of branched out into other areas over the last few weeks, and we've really responded to the kind of things that you wanted to see and wanted to hear about. So if there are any topics that you would like us to cover, then please pop it in the chat box, and we'll be happy to plan some sessions. We've just had we've had quite a few chats over the last day or so about some plans. So it's been hopefully things that you'll find really beneficial. So we're going to have a chat today about two topic areas. I'm going to have a chat about patient communication, and then Dan is going to talk about placebos and nocebos. So probably heard of placebos before, but maybe not nocebos. So it'd be hopefully of interest to you guys. Certainly something that I've read a lot about over the last few years and incorporated into my practice. So I'm looking forward to listening to that one as well. Dan, anything you want to say just to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mike. Yeah. Daniel Lawrence from the Physio channel, RockTape UK. Mike and I were just chatting before we started. We want to mention a couple of things to you just by way of making you aware of some things that have come up. Today, Simon, one of my colleagues, launched our new Flow Tech website, which I'll put onto the chat in a moment, where we've launched and released these new guns into the UK, which are absolutely fantastic. And they're the closest I'll get to treating at the moment, is using one of these on myself. And as you can see, they're pretty quiet. I haven't turned the sound off, and highly effective as well. So there's two different types, and they're on the Flow Tech Sport website. And then Mike, we've been chatting as well. We've arranged a couple of live stream events with you as well. Do you want to tell people a bit about those?
Yeah, sure. So tomorrow is the final day of our FMT1 course. So the taping course that we usually deliver as a CPD course, or one day, we've split it over several days and done bite-sized chunks. And we've been able to then teach a bit of taping technique, and we've created our own little Facebook group. People post their videos of doing the techniques, and then I review those and give some feedback, and then we do the next session on the next day. So we're looking at running another one of those sessions because it's been really well received. And we're also looking at doing a pod course as well. And we've had a chat, Dan and I, about creating the course, building the course around, so that you guys can teach your patients how to treat themselves and use the online systems, so that and I'll show you how I would do it, and then you can then incorporate it into your practice. And then your patients will give them links and codes to things, and they'll be able to buy the equipment themselves so that they can treat themselves, and you can tell them what to do. So we're trying to find a way now for you guys to reconnect with your patients, and especially if they're predominantly manual therapy, so that they can learn the techniques, or you can learn the techniques and then pass that information on to them. So look out for those. They'll be coming out over the next couple of weeks. And I think we've got another taping course at the end of the month. And then in June,
first week of June and second week of June, we've got taping, taping, and then pods. Yeah.
There we go. I'm back. Yeah, okay. So if you're interested in those, we'll be posting them on the website soon. So you'll be able to join in with those. I see a few of you are interested already, so that's really good. Keep an eye out for those. And again, any other courses that you think you can use this time to learn new things, then please let us know, and we'll be happy to where we can, we'll be happy to try to put things on for you. No problem at all. Great.
Brilliant.
Cool. So yeah, we're going to split the session up. But I'm going to do the first bit on patient communication, and then Dan's going to follow up with the placebos and nocebos. So just wanted to give you a little bit of background on this. So I qualified as a teacher back in 2006, 2007, and I used to work in FE and then in HE. So with college courses and then university courses. And when I did my teacher training, we went through certain theories of teaching. And then as I went through my kind of therapy career, I realized that there was a lot of synergy between the two, and we can where we can learn from the teacher training courses and then implement that into the therapy world as well. So I'm just going to get my slides up here. So yeah, well, I usually deliver this on our diploma course. We teach a diploma course, and we spend a bit of time talking about patient communication and how to set up your consultation session to get the most out of it, and for the patient to get the most out of it as well. So we're going to have a look at the traits of a good teacher. How to agree goals with a patient, knowing who your patient is, and then trying to make it work and make it memorable for that individual. So just to let you know beforehand, give you a bit of warning, there is an interaction bit coming up. So I need your interaction on the chat, if that's okay. So get your keyboards ready. I'll give you a little bit of time to answer these. So a bad teacher. Okay, let's see what you come back with. So think of a time when you experienced a really bad teacher, and what I'd like you to pop in the chat is why they were bad. What was bad about them? Okay, so if you want to pop some things in that chat box there. So if you experienced a bad teacher either at school or at college, university, why was that particular teacher bad? What were the traits that they had that you really didn't find were of benefit to you? Okay, and whilst you're angry generally, okay, so we had an angry teacher. Oh dear, not engaged in the content. Okay, authoritarian. Well, that's a good word for this late stage of the day. Accused you of cheating. Oh wow, put his fist through a window in anger. Read a book whilst glancing up only to look at the far corner of the classroom. No real interaction. Dan, out of date. Okay, good. Teacher was autocratic, didn't like questions. Oh wow, well this is a clue for us, Dan, about how not to be. So this is good. Disagreeing with other literature and believed only his opinion was right. That's a cracking one. Brilliant. Okay, right, let's flip that around then. And what made you a good teacher? So who was the teacher that you remember the most, remember the best, and why did they stand out? Why were they so? Why do you remember them so much? Okay, what did they do? Again, the traits of that person. These bad teachers are great. Reading out slides on PowerPoint. Yeah, apologies, I'm doing that now, but I'm trying to make it interactive. Friendly and opening for discussion. Good. Passion, enthusiasm. Oh, bless you. Thanks, Marcus. Yeah, I'll pop the money in the post. Engaging, inviting into discussion. Good at listening. Open-minded. Yeah, really good. Teaching in a fun way. Yeah, that's really important. Cool. Okay, good. So these are the kind of things when I ask this question. They are passionate about their subject. Yeah, really good. So these are the kind of things that usually come out when we think about teachers. And if you think of our role in as a therapist, we have to teach people. We have to try to impart our knowledge onto someone so that they leave that session having a better understanding than when they came in. And that's basically the job of a teacher. So when you go to a lesson at school, if you're there for 45 minutes, an hour, that teacher has got goals, objectives that they need to meet, and then we need to assess them at the end to make sure that they've been met. And you've perfectly shown there that if you've got someone who's uninterested, kind of goes through the motions, doesn't engage with people, then they're not very good teachers. Okay, and the good teachers are the guys that that you've just mentioned there, who engage people and are open-minded and they want to discuss things. Okay, and also thanks, Tom. And if they're good looking, yeah, that would help. Okay, so yeah, good teachers, and that's what we need to be. We need to be those good teachers that are enthusiastic and passionate about getting our message across. And I'll show you ways in a second of how to make sure that you have got that message across, because that's the important bit. If you've talked to someone and you've taught them, then at the end of the session they should be able to recall or demonstrate what you've told them. Okay, so you make sure that they've got the message. So when you're setting goals for people, this is just something from Louis Gifford. If you've not heard of him before, then this is the kind of stuff that Dan's going to be talking about. Peter, you got no chance. You can learn, Peter. Don't worry. This is basically what a patient usually wants to know. Okay, so what's wrong with me? How long is it going to take to get better? Is there anything that I can do, so the patient can do, to get better, or is there anything that you can do or give me to help it? Yeah, that's generally what the patient wants from a session. Those 4 key things. This is the top of our form in my clinic. So the first question is, what are your expectations from today? Okay, but we want to set that goal right at the beginning about what they want to get out of that session. And sometimes they don't know what they want to get, so that's fine. We can guide them, but we need to ask the patient, right? Okay, by the end of this session, what do you want to leave with? Okay, and then at the end of the session, we refer back to that goal, and we say, right, okay, this is what you came in with today. This is what you wanted to do. Have we achieved that? So have you? Do you have that information that you wanted when you first came in? And that's exactly what I would do as a teacher. So I'd have my objectives. These are the agreed goals. And then at the end of the session, I go, right, okay, have we achieved these goals? Have you got what you want? Yeah. So that's really, really key. Whereas Louis Gifford's are quite broad, this is very specific to the individual. So it's an individualized goal, and that's really important. You also have to know the patient's entry behavior. So what are they coming in with? What kind of baggage are they coming in with? And again, Dan will cover this kind of stuff with the placebo, nocebo area. So what have they Googled beforehand? What have they got in their mind is wrong with them? And we can ask these questions. Have you had a look online about anything? Are you worried about anything? So we can question it a little bit more to see where their head is at, so that we can see what kind of myths we need to bust, or the information we need to give across, so that they can change their mind on things if they need to, or we can reinforce the fact that they're actually on the right lines. Okay, have they got any experience of this issue that they've had before? Okay, and are they drawing on that previous experience, and that's what's making them the way they are today? And again, Dan will cover that in a bit more detail. So in teacher, I mean, this has been debated, and that people say there aren't learning styles, but I think there are key things that people respond better to than others. Okay, so what I've done here, just kind of created a bit of a table to say, right, if you're trying to attract patients, and especially now with websites, because that's all we've got, or Facebook, your point of contact, your advertising website, if you only have one type of medium, you will only attract one type of the way that person learns. Yeah, so if someone's quite a visual learner, they love loads of videos, they love vlogs, they love webinars like this, then you will attract them. And if you put that on your website, they will love it. But if they are an auditory type of learner, and that's the way they like to learn, they will be turned off by that kind of content. Okay, and some people are more read-write, so they actually like the detail and they want a blog, or they want instructional details. Okay, and then some people are kinesthetic. And we were just talking about this before the webinar today, about creating interactive webinars with patients, open forums with patients, so you can communicate with them online and through live Facebook and live Instagram. Yeah. So if you do all of those things, you'll hit everybody. What we tend to do is do the things that we like. So I'm a very visual learner. I'm very kinesthetic. I think that's basically why we do our job. Yeah. Because that's the kind of thing that we like to do. And I have to, it pains me to write things. I don't like writing, I had to write a chapter in a book when I was working for the university, and it took me 5 years to do, and the editor was going mad. But that kind of stuff is not where my passion is. I love doing the video content. I love doing this kind of stuff where it's interactive. Okay. And then during an appointment as well, you need to hit all of those different types of learning styles whilst you're with them. So if you think about the way we're operating now, you need to prepare for these sessions. So you need to have videos and diagrams that you can do, or you record yourself. Obviously, you've got the auditory part of delivery online, but you might need to have it at your disposal a library of kind of research papers that if you get, those people who love detail, you send them over the research paper. Some people will be completely turned off by that, but some people will love it and they want to dig down into the detail of what you've talked about. Okay. So I'm not going to go through them all, but you can obviously see there are different points in the before they come to see you, when they come to see you, and then afterwards in the follow-up, where you can hit the different types of learning styles with the different types of medium. Okay, so that's just something to have a think about. I'm sure most of you do most of this already, but there may be a couple of things that you miss out. This is something that I do quite often on the trainer courses as well. So I go through this list of questions. So you don't have to answer these, by the way. So what is your earliest memory? What were you doing at 9 o'clock last Thursday? Can't remember 9 o'clock last night. What were you doing on the second Tuesday of September after the millennium? If you can remember that far back. How many tests did you take before passing your driving test? 6 times 6, 7th letter of the alphabet. And then what were you doing when the Twin Towers were attacked? Seems like a weird bunch of questions, but there are 2 questions in there that are the same. Yeah. So what were you doing on the second Tuesday of September after the millennium was September the 11th. And you wouldn't remember if someone said to you, what were you doing on that Tuesday? Yeah. But when someone asks you, what are you doing when the Twin Towers were attacked? You know exactly where you are. And it's because you remember what is meaningful to you and what has an emotion attached to it. So when you're delivering your therapy to people, your exercise therapy, it has to be meaningful to that individual so that they can remember it. Okay. If you're just pulling out sheets of exercise willy-nilly and they have no relevance to that individual, they're not going to remember it, and they won't have an attachment to it. So they're less likely to do it. You need to make sure it's specific for them. So what we can do is when you give someone an exercise, okay, and we've made sure that it's a meaningful task for that individual, we've got to formatively assess them. So this is another teaching terminology. So you form an opinion of how much someone knows. That's what a formative assessment is. So if you just say to someone, have you got that? Yeah. So you show them an exercise. Have you got that? And they'll just go, yeah. I know what you mean. But they say it because they often don't want to tell you that they haven't got a clue what you've been talking about and they can't remember. Okay. So what you need to say instead is, or the kind, you put it in your own words, but can you teach me how to do that exercise that I've just shown you? Okay. And you get them to demonstrate it. And then that shows you that they know what you've told them to do. Okay. So why you do, and you can question them. Yeah. So then they become the teacher. And if they can teach you, you know that they've got it. Yeah. And then another way of putting it is if I was to ask you to explain what I've just said to you, to your husband or wife or whoever, how would you explain it to them? Oh, I've gone again. Okay. Lucky it's the end. Okay. So, yeah, how would you explain it to them? And those are ways that you can formatively assess that what you've told them and what you've shown them has gone in and they've understood it. Okay. That was good timing. because Dan, it's over to you, mate.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mike. I was really enjoying that, really engaged there. It's brilliant. So now we're going to move on to have a look at the placebo and nocebos, which happen all the time. We use them all the time. We just need to kind of nail down as to what they are and how we can effectively manage them. So let me just stop this presentation. And I did upload mine, Mike. Where's it gone? Do I need to do it again? Add new slide presentation.
Yeah, I can't see anything on my end,
All
mate.
right, okay. Sorry about that, guys. I've got some notes here. I did do it twice. Right, I'll just get started here. So the placebo, which is what we start with, is one of the most misunderstood terms in our profession. And I often hear the term from patients, but if I could capture the look on some of my students' faces when I talk to them about the placebo and say that there is a large placebo element to, to what we do within our jobs, because that's where most of our knowledge lies. But there's a huge placebo to many things in medicine. And at the end of my few slides, I actually reference a book that I've just started reading. I've wanted to read it for a while. And it's that one there, which I think the camera's probably turned upside down or something. It's called Surgery, the Ultimate Placebo. And the idea that surgery is the biggest form of medical placebo out there is something which shocks a lot of people. But I've heard it said by surgeons themselves, and this book is actually written by an orthopedic surgeon. So it's absolutely fascinating to hear it from a surgeon as he talks through the research. But what does a placebo mean to us? Well, it's often viewed negatively. And I think from what I've read, that's probably because of the idea that there's some deception involved. When you read medical research where a placebo has been used and patients feel that they have got better, the placebo is often thought to be deceiving the patient as they're being told they're receiving a treatment when actually they're not. So even though they find benefits from the placebo, it's seen as a form of deception. So I think that's probably where one of the more negative views of the placebo comes from. It's also hard to define. It's not a single thing, and people respond to it differently, and they may individual may also respond to it differently at different points in time. In terms of where it came from, one of the earliest researchers was a chap called Henry Knowles Beecher, who identified that World War II combat soldiers didn't ask for as much analgesia as people who were injured in the civilian setting. And that's because for a soldier in combat, an injury could be a thing with a positive outcome, because it meant that they were removed from the war zone. It meant that they probably got to see friends and family. It meant that they were taken to safety. So they actually felt safer after having an injury compared to in a civilian setting where an injury would be much more dangerous. And that's because the injury would threaten their ability to perform their normal daily functions, threaten their ability to produce an income, for example. So an injury in a civilian setting is very different in terms of outcome to an injury in the war setting. And that's one of the earliest studies that led to the idea of a placebo and placebo research. There's many things that a placebo could be, but one of the main mechanisms by which a placebo works is through descending inhibition, or the release of endogenous opioids. It's often described as the brain's pharmacy, the brain's natural pharmacy. So a placebo causes a neurological effect, and then the neurological effect can then trigger hormonal changes within the body, can trigger descending inhibition, and therefore it can become much more of a stimulus to the endocrine system as well. So the placebo is not just all on our head, although it's very much starts there. It can trigger real biological processes which lead to real identified changes within our body, which lead to pain relief. And without digressing too far, what's fascinating from some of the research that I've been looking at is it's also a placebo effect to the immune system. And it's thought that people that have allergic reactions to substances, there may be almost a classical conditioning element to that, whereby the very expectation that they're going to have a reaction could have a real effect on the type of reaction that they have. So that if people feel that they are not going to have a reaction, then they have much less of a reaction. Whereas people, if they automatically assume they're going to have a reaction, then they end up having a much bigger inflammatory reaction. So what that's suggesting is the placebo is not only strong enough to neutralize strong pain relief, but the placebo is a strong enough effect to actually influence our immune system and to influence the inflammatory system as well. So it's pretty powerful, even though it's not still not fully understood, of course. So let's turn to the slides here, and as it shows here, I hope you like the pictures there of Mike and myself on that advert. They've just been done. I've just shaved off my beard, so I'm going to have to get a new picture or grow the beard back. And Mike said he wants a beard, but I did send you. Yeah, I did send you that one, Mike, so you can chop and change as you please. So the placebo effect is the perceived therapeutic effect minus the specific therapeutic effect, and this is easiest to look at in medicine, because if a patient is given, say, I don't know, a stimulus, then the perceived therapeutic effect is how much they feel that stimulus helps them, how much it elevates their mood, how much it gives them energy, boosts their metabolism, boosts their heart rate, etc. And then if you minus the specific therapeutic effect from the drug, then you have what is essentially the placebo effect. So to do this, you typically have to perform a randomized controlled trial that's blinded as well. So here's an example. Let's just say Mike and I are given some tablets. Okay.
Why am I the one with steroids?
It's random selection, Mike. I've got a placebo, all right, but I think it's a steroid. And Mike has a steroid and he knows it's a steroid. All right. So I've got a placebo, but I think it's a steroid because it's a big tablet, and Mike's got the same. But of course mine has no active ingredients. Mine's a blank, whereas Mike's is the real thing. So Mike, as you see, gets a lot stronger. I also get a bit stronger. Now, of course, I could get stronger just because I'm training, but let's just toy with the idea here that I'm getting stronger because I think that I'm taking steroids. So therefore, if you minus that, the 5%, then the active ingredient accounts for 15% of Mike's gain, whereas the placebo effect for me is 5%. So what that says is that Mike got 15% stronger from the steroid and 5% stronger from the placebo effect. So the very fact that he was taking a steroid and the positive expectation that he had led to that extra 5% gain. So I also gained, even though I didn't actually have an active ingredient. So comparing two groups, and particularly when those two groups, as they should be, are blinded, you can see what the placebo effect likely is. The placebo effect is always tangled up as well with the active ingredient. So if we're doing a massage or a manipulation or even some rehabilitation exercise, there are placebo elements and placebo effects occurring, which are hard to disentangle from the core of the exercise or the massage medium that we are delivering. So let's toy around with our experimentation here. And let's say that both Mike and I are given a placebo, but I'm told it's a placebo and Mike is told that his is a steroid. So here we can see that the very fact that he thinks he's taking something active is going to make him do better than me, even though we're both taking the same tablet. And that's because of many things, including his positive expectation around what he's taking. This can apply to exercise. If patients have a positive expectation of an exercise and somebody else has a neutral expectation or even a negative expectation, that can have a significant impact on the outcome. So take away the placebos. That could be massage, it could be some acupuncture, it could be, as I said, a manipulation or exercise. Then if one person is expecting a positive outcome, they're more likely to get a positive outcome. That is in large the placebo effect. Even if you do the best treatment in the world or offer the person the best exercise, if for some reason they are expecting a negative outcome or just don't have a positive outlook, then it's most likely to have such a significant effect on the outcome that it may actually neutralize the effective treatment that you're trying to put into place. So this is the last of our studies here, and this introduces the nocebo. Now, the nocebo is this. It's what it says. It's the perceived negative effect causing a negative outcome or reducing a positive outcome. So it may produce pain, for example, or it may reduce the benefits of a massage, or it may reduce the benefits of a rehabilitation exercise plan. So here we have Mike and I both taking placebos, except I'm told that it's a muscle relaxant and Mike's told it's a steroid again. So once again, Mike goes and gets 10% stronger from his training and the placebo effect and his magic power boosting pills. And I've got my placebo, but I actually see a minus. My strength actually decreases because I think I'm taking these muscle relaxants instead of the placebos. Now, of course, in reality, it's most likely that I might make some strength gains, but they would be significantly less than Mike's. But I just wanted to highlight the point here that a nocebo effect can dampen, can neutralize, or could even send people into that negative territory as well with expectation. So, Mike, we've got lots of similarities between our presentations tonight. I mean, in particular, you mentioned about teacher training and FE and HE, which is also the journey that I went through also in 2006. And also in my presentation, I've got some interaction. So this is the journey. This is the journey that all of our patients are likely to take. And we're not always aware of these moments in the patient's journey. So I thought it'd be a good idea to show you and to go through and to ask you in the comments to put down whether you consider them to be nocebos or placebos. And let's have a look, because these can have an effect on the patient outcome. So let's start in the top corner where there's two people talking to each other. So this is one person asking their friend for some advice on who to go and see. So they advise that they should go and see Natalie. I saw Natalie there in the comments. So they're saying, who should I go and see for my bad back? And the others, oh, I went to see Natalie. Yep, she was very good. She helped me. You're completely unaware of this conversation, of course, but is this a placebo or a nocebo at this stage? Well, it's obviously a placebo, but I have met some patients who feel that this is a nocebo, particularly if they're told about, they went to see somebody and, they really did, vigorously did this, or they hurt me, for example. But most of the time, word of mouth, which leads to you getting a patient, is going to be positive. And if they say something positive and say that they did well with you, do you know what? You've already started treating them. Just think about that for a second. You've already started treating them, even though you haven't met them. Because if they've got a positive expectation, then the likelihood of a positive outcome is greatly increased. Those patients that come to you and they sing your praises before you even start assessing them, because you've treated their husband or their wife or their friend, and they're really positive, and you feel positive about treating them too, because they're really positive about coming to see you. that's not just a nice experience. There's a placebo effect going on there. And don't forget, we've got this endogenous opioids being released, this descending inhibition. There's a process going on there in your favor, and of course their favor, which has already started to positively treat the patient before they even come to your clinic. Now, the next one is this. They have to find you. So typically they're going to have a look and search you up on the website or on Facebook or something like that. So once again, your website is an opportunity to deliver some placebo therapy. You firstly want to make sure that you don't have any nocebos on your website. So you want to avoid pictures of people in excruciating pain. You want to avoid pictures of, like on the screen there, the crumbling spine. You want it to be a positive website, and one that avoids having lots of people kind of buckled over and bending and grimacing, which is likely to make people experience or feel more pain as they look at those images. But there's also an ability there on the website to present a positive picture, to present positive messages, to give people positive facts as well, and positive images, positive text, positive videos as well, and maybe even some auditory information that makes people feel positive about coming to see you, because that is treating the patient. Looking on your website, just what they're exposed to visually, but also perhaps engaging in some more purposeful information on your website is already starting to treat the patient. All right, then they give you a phone call. All right, and let's just say they speak to you or to your receptionist. Again, that can have a profound effect. If they phone your receptionist, or they have a not great experience on the phone, then if the patient's already anxious, or if they start to become a little anxious, it can perhaps not put them as at ease as you would like. Now, at the clinic where I used to work, we used to have a car park outside, which is great because parking is kind of important, right? If people have to get stressed trying to park to come and see you, that's not ideal. Now, I appreciate that this may be an issue, but I saw a patient, this may be difficult if you're in the middle of a city or something, but I saw a patient once who just had an altercation in our car park outside. I think they'd had a bump or a scrape or something, and they had an argument, and they came in and they were visually distressed. I could see that they were very tense from it, and it completely upset their whole physiotherapy assessment, as you can imagine. But little things can do this as well. So if the patient has a bit of stress triggered, or is already anxious, and they come into the waiting room and they're presented with again with pictures of people doubled over in pain, or if the receptionist is rude to them, I don't know, or they find it difficult to find you, then this can trigger or stimulate parts of the brain, for example, one part called the amygdala. And once this happens, it starts to kind of set off this anxiety response and set off the threat systems. And Mike was talking earlier about education. You can't educate, and it's really difficult to educate somebody who is in a heightened state of anxiety. And of course, pain itself can put people in a heightened state of anxiety. So we're doing everything we can to reduce anxiety, or to not trigger anxiety, because if a patient comes into us anxious through potentially no fault of our own, then they're not going to be receptive to new information, and they're not going to be the type of patient that we can educate, because their brain is just not operating at that educational level when there's heightened anxiety. So appearance makes a big difference, and you can see on the thing there, our clinics need to have a good appearance. That varies. I would suggest you want to kind of go with a positive, comforting experience. Some clinics, in my opinion, look a bit too clinical, and I have a friend who anything that's kind of doctorish or clinical makes his heart rate automatically go up. So we want our clinics to reflect what we're trying to do in our practice as well. We want to avoid images and posters of people that are sort of doubled over in pain, and these images of crumbling spines, etc., because these are nocebos. These types of images, people look at them and they think, "Oh gosh, was my spine like that? The doctor gave me an X-ray the other day." This can make people feel more pain. It can make them more fearful of movement. It can make them less likely to engage in rehabilitation. So we want to consciously avoid those types of nocebo. And one of the worst ones that I see in clinic is in clinics is the model of the spine with the little red bit sticking out of the spine to kind of, I assume it's trying to show like a disc protrusion or something. But those type of things we don't really think about because we've been exposed to them for our education, and they don't mean much to us. But to a patient looking at that, they can think, oh gosh, is that what's happening in my spine? That looks terrible. I better not move. I better, really kind of look after my spine. It must be fragile. And then there's us. There's how we present as well. So unfortunately, at the moment, it's likely we're likely to have to face patients in the near future wearing a mask, which we can't deny just looks scary and just very, very medical. It depends what type of mask you wear, but it's not the sort of mask that allows you to greet a patient with a nice warm smile. Instead, you end up looking a bit like Bane. So these are things that unfortunately we have to work with at the moment, but how we present to a patient is important. And then of course we start to communicate with our patients. In our room, they may see a certificate, see that we're qualified. I couldn't resist putting a rock tape certificate there. But of course, if they see a certificate from your main qualification, then that's the sort of thing that makes patients feel at ease. However, regardless of the journey they've had coming to see you, once the patient's with you, there's a huge experience to practice placebo-based treatment. Okay. The placebo is not a negative thing. We are already incorporating the placebo. It makes a huge difference. So if you get the patient moving, you don't movement shame them. You help them to move. You don't say they have to move in exactly this way. You get them moving. You're positive about the sorts of things that they achieve in the clinic. You build up a good rapport and patient alliance as well. All these things can lead to positive outcomes and lead to a better adherence to the treatment plan as you move through as well. So I just wanted to highlight there the very fact that the placebo starts right before the patient even looks at your website, even when they start to ask about you. And that therefore, if the placebo is incorporated into treatment, the patients are almost starting to be treated before they even come and book an appointment with you. And then the journey that they have, literally the physical journey they have to come and see you, everything from traveling to parking to finding you, all has an influence on the patient. You want the patient to arrive with you at the very least in a calm state, and if possible, in a positive state and ready to learn and ready to be treated. You want to avoid at all costs a patient arriving to see you who has received too many nocebos and has been made anxious. Not all of this is within our control, of course, but we have a great ability to influence our patients right from when they first start to find out about us, much earlier than them actually arriving in our clinic. So I just wanted to go through that journey to make people aware that there's opportunities to treat patients before they actually arrive with us. Now, I've been reading a whole bunch of stuff to do with nocebos and placebos, but I wanted just to put up a couple of things here that I found particularly interesting. So the message I wanted to get across was avoid nocebos, and to practice placebo-enhanced therapy, because that's what the placebo does. It enhances what we do. So this book I've just started reading. It's absolutely fascinating. Surgery is the ultimate placebo. It's amazing. And the idea of surgery being a placebo is because of the ritualistic behavior that surgeons go through, which has been linked to the type of ritualistic behavior that shamans go through. And once again, a surgeon has written this paper that I've put up there called Surgeons and Shamans, and it looks at the link between the ritualistic medical behavior and the ritualistic behavior that shamans go through in order to deliver a treatment, and the powerful placebo effect of both of those things. So that wraps up my presentation on nocebos and placebos, and thank you very much for listening. Perhaps there's some questions. If there are, please send them through. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we've had a few comments there which have been good. Mark has said surgeons in the kids ward where at the, I guess in the hospital where he works, they wear the masks and have a great placebo effect on the patient. So I guess kind of like in a jokey kind of way, and then meeting the surgeon so that it kind of demystifies them. I think that's something that's gone around in the NHS for a while now. But introducing who the person is and what their job role is, and you see that again and again and again now. It's becoming part of the way that you're treated, which is really good. We often wear I don't do it so much now, but I used to do it with just name badges of who you are. And what your job role is, and it just puts people at ease when they know who they're speaking to. I think we had a comment about the type of mask as well.
Yeah, I was just following that there. I was trying to work out Marcus's comment, which I then worked out was in response to Tom's, and that's to do with like Superman and Superwoman masks.
Yeah.
So even the mask, the film, The Mask, with the gritty, cheesy grin. Maybe if it was, I would get. It
depends on the person, doesn't it? I mean, if you have if you deal with kind of I don't know, people who would find that fun, then that's great. But if it's, I don't know, if it's a frail old lady coming in who's never seen you before, I think it might scare the heck out of them. It depends on I guess it depends on who you're seeing and the kind of relationship you already have with the person. I think first impression one, I think you've got to be really careful. Going forward, if you know them, then you can definitely have a joke. Diane's just said, seems to be a conflict gathering pace between evidence-based practice and the art of treating clients. I feel worried that our softer skills may be undervalued. That's a good comment. Yeah, I think it's a pendulum swinging, isn't it? Because it's and it always does that. You get a particular paper or a theme of research that comes out, and we all go down one route. And some people chuck the baby out with the bathwater and forget everything they ever knew. But I think it's using everything that you know and putting it all together at different times. So you kind of grab a little bit of information from one area, a little bit from the new stuff, and then you mix it and match it depending on who you're seeing as well. So it's I think you have to do that. It's there is the problem is with research, it doesn't rarely tells us what to do. It tells us what not to do, or not how things work, but how things don't work. So but then even then depends on how the research was conducted, whether we need to revisit those kind of thoughts. It's a good comment, that one. I think I've seen it a lot over the years with the especially with the pain neuroscience stuff was quite new, and it was poo-pooed, and then it came very, very popular, and then it swung a bit too far the other way, and now it's coming back a bit. But we're using the good bits from that escalation in its use, so that I think everyone's a bit more rounded now, what it should be anyway. So that I think that's good.
Yeah. I mean, this when people were making comments about their bad teachers, there's certainly somebody mentioned about the research and the teacher just preferring to stick to their own opinion and ignore the research. I think the research does challenge people's professional opinions, and the research, true research, which is going to change practice, does significantly challenge people, and in some respects, threaten people's professional standpoints as well. And that's where the research into placebos is challenging, because it can really challenge the things that people have been doing for years. It can challenge the routine and challenge people's practices. Furthermore, with the issue with researching with placebo is ethics as well, because there's a huge human ethical barrier for doing true placebo research, because otherwise there is some significant deception and there's a significant group of patients who are potentially going without treatment that they need in order to do the placebo research, but that is unethical. So there's challenges there in the very methodology of placebo research as well.
There's a good comment there by Beverly as well, that the therapists at the hospital have included a picture of themselves underneath their name badge because they're wearing masks at the moment, so it shows what they normally look like. I think that's a really good touch. I like that.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good one. Yeah.
Good.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you for that. Enjoyed listening to that, and that was really good. So that's it for another week. And we'll be back next Monday at 8. If, like we said at the beginning, if there's anything in particular that you want us to cover, want us to discuss, then please let us know, and we'll be happy to do that. No problem at all.
Yeah. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Good night, everyone.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.